Hello, hello. It's me, Brakk-Hieden. And this is 3 reasons why veterans get out of the armed forces. Now, as a disclaimer, I was a Marine infantryman stationed in Hawaii. So my personal opinion about certain things and how my daily life was inside of the Marine Corps might be a lot different from someone, say, in the Army who was stationed in Korea. Things change between units and between jobs, what you're doing every day, and just like the civilian world. The only difference is that we all are under a law. It's called the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and that kind of brings us all together under one set of rules, but just day-to-day life can be a lot different depending on what your job is, what your branch is, or where you're stationed. So 3 reasons why veterans get out of the armed forces. Reason number 1, I say, is going to be freedom as well as politics. Now, freedom is something that you kind of take for granted when you're in the civilian world. But when you join the armed forces, you're effectively giving up all of those rights that you had, once you had gotten out of your parents' house and you were on your own. You just kind of followed the law, but you really could do whatever you wanted, for the most part. But as soon as you join the armed forces, you're effectively not allowed to do certain things. You're not allowed to say certain things. You're not allowed to do certain things, and all of that comes down to,
hi, welcome to the store.
Being able to do what you want when you want is something you wish you could do whenever you're in, just like you were out in the civilian world. So, say, you can't just say whatever you want to say. You can't do whatever you want to do. You don't have your freedom of speech. You don't have your freedom of expression. You can't just go out and do all of these things that you could have done, before. Now, obviously, the rules aren't, your rights aren't completely taken away, but it's severely mitigated. And that can be very frustrating for someone who's been in for a while, not being able to do what you want, feeling like a grown man or grown woman who's not allowed to go out and do what they want to go do, basically having to ask permission from somebody who's just a couple years older than you, but because they have a higher rank, they basically are the yay or nay. They're your mom and dad, and that's frustrating. And in addition to that, there's the politics of the Marine Corps, or the armed forces. I mean, the political correctness. Some people just couldn't cope with the changing of how things were going in the armed forces. And then in addition to that, there's a lot that goes into promotions and stuff like that, and some of it can come down to who they like more, like who they favor more. And that can be frustrating for someone who's worked really, really hard, but they didn't talk to the right people, or they didn't, suck up, or whatever the case. And I'm not going to say that's how it is for sure, but it's something that I've heard people complain about, and the reason why they got out. So reason number 2. Reason number 2 is basically your pay and benefits, and that's kind of like a broad term, but when I say pay and benefits, I just mean you don't get paid very much at all, like very, very little. I think a private makes like $600 every 2 weeks, and it's not a lot of money. And on the flip side of it, your quote unquote housing is paid for, and your health insurance and medical, like all your stuff's paid for, your child's paid for. But the thing with that is, along with the freedom thing, some people just want to be able to spend the money on what they want to, and you're forced to kind of stay inside of barracks rooms, which are not all that great, and you're living with 2 other guys, and you're only making that much money, and you can't really, you're paying for the chow hall, but the chow hall's not that great, or you don't enjoy the food, or it's not that healthy, or whatever the case, whatever it is. So you end up just spending your money on going out to eat, so that you can have some decent food. And it's just one of those things that people got fed up with, and they would get out for that reason. It's just comes down to the pay and benefits. You know, you don't get paid a whole lot, and you can go make more in the civilian world. And then in addition to that, when you go to the civilian world, you can go and get a job, and if you don't like that job, you can quit and go get another job that pays more or does something different. Obviously, you can't do that in the armed forces. The only way to get an increase in pay is to basically get promoted. And then you can also get married, but I don't suggest that because, I mean, there's a whole lot more that goes into it. But when you get married, you basically, your housing pay and your child pay stops going straight to those things and goes to you instead. And that's whenever you start making the real money. That's where people are making enough money to live on, is because they're not living in the barracks and stuff like that. Now, like I said, it's something, if you work it out, that you can live in the barracks and then be able to save money and spend money the proper way. I've seen people do it many times, but like I said, a lot of guys don't like being stuck in those barracks rooms. They don't like being stuck with guys they don't like. You have to keep the rooms clean. You have to field day every Thursday night, which, you know, I'm not complaining about that. I'm just saying that's something that would get frustrating, you know, as a grown person, having another grown man come in there in white glove, dresser, and then tell you you're a piece of crap because that there's a little bit of dust still on it, which I have seen happen. Actually, that happened to me a couple times. I don't really care. It's one of those things, you know, someone yells at you, whoop-de-doo, you know. That's one of the big things you learn, is how to get some thick skin, or at least in the Marine Corps, infantry. That's how it was, because when people would you get blasted or, you know, reprimanded or however you want to call it, and you just kind of had to take it with a grain of salt, because you couldn't really get mad, because that would just cause more problems. And then if you went and got, you know, crybaby whiny about it, then, you know, the only person who's going to give a crap about it is you, because really no one cares. And that's just something you have to learn how to deal with. And that's I guess that kind of goes with the freedom thing, as to why people get out. It's just a different culture. Some people really enjoy it and they want to stay in. And I know a lot of good friends of mine that they're still in and they're still rocking and rolling. They're enjoying their career. I know guys who left the Marine Corps and went into the Army and did that. And then, you know, I have friends that joined after I got out, and they went and got into, you know, the Army or whatever the case. And, you know, some of them are really enjoying it. Some of them really hate it. It's just, I think it just goes person to person. So, I guess that brings me to number 3, and this one could be higher on the list. For me, it would be, but as a general sense, it's not. I say family would be number 3 on the list. When you go away from home for the first time, for most people joining, that's the first time they've ever been away from home. And the first thing they do is, you know, they go to a, you know, 1.5 to 3 month basic training where they get yelled at and told how to live, and basically turned into disciplined, quote unquote disciplined, you know, armed service people. You know, the Marine Corps boot camp's 3 months and you're just gone. You're cut off from the world. No cell phone, no nothing. You eat on a schedule. You sleep on a schedule. You get slid into the ground on a schedule. You get yelled at on a schedule, like, or you're screamed at, I should say. There'll be other videos on that. You can always count on a boot camp video, because, come on, there's so much that happened in boot camp, and everyone wants to know about boot camp for some reason. But anyways, once you leave home, some people are able to kind of desensitize. I was one of those people, and it's something that's really hard for me, and I'm still struggling with now. Being home is I'm so used to just being away that I would just forget about those that were back home and just, you know, put it out of my mind so that it didn't bother me. And some people can do that, you know, like myself. Some people couldn't. You know, family was all that it was about, and you don't want to be away from home for that long. When you have the chance to finally get out and be home with your family, you want to take that chance, you know. And then in addition to that, you don't want to have to get up and do all the stuff, you know what I mean? It's kind of hard to explain, but you know, if I decided in the morning that I don't want to get up and go to work, and I didn't, there would be consequences, but like, those consequences are something that I could deal with. They wouldn't mess me over for a really, really long time. I mean, I guess they would. It's kind of hard to explain it. You're forced to do certain things, or you have to do certain things. You know, shave your face, get up, you have to wear a certain uniform, you have to PT every day, you have to maintain a physical standard, you have to be able to do this, be able to do that at all times, while you're also doing this, this, and this on this side, plus you have to have this, you know, over here taken care of, and the whole time you're trying to maintain with family. It gets really difficult. So a lot of people will they'll choose to go home and get out just so they can be with family again. And then also there's those who started a family in but didn't think that the armed forces was the place where they needed to be. I know a couple people that's happened to. They just decided that being in was not in the best interest of their family because they wanted to be able to be home, you know, instead of being gone. I know guys that were gone for the birth of their firstborn son, you know, and all they wanted to do was be home, but they were deployed. That can be heart-wrenching and difficult when the first time that you see your son or daughter is 3 months after they're born. And so when it comes down to you know, that re-enlistment speech that you get from the career planner, and he's like, hey, you know, you could do this, this, and this, be good for your family, good for this. By the time I was getting to those, I straight up was just like, you know what, Staff Sergeant, I don't want to be in anymore. And he wanted a real reason. He's like, well, give me a real reason. I was like, I have too many reasons to give you a real reason. I just don't want to be in anymore. I don't want to be in the Marine Corps anymore. And sometimes that's just what it is, you know. With me, I just didn't want to be anymore. I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to go to college or go to trade school, or I just wanted to go. I wanted to go on to the next chapter. And so for me, that's kind of, all of these reasons were definitely contributing factors in my own decision to go ahead and end my active service. It might be different. Like I said, some people have different mindsets, some people have different things. It's kind of a generalization from a Marine infantryman stationed in Hawaii. Thanks so much for watching. My name's Brakk-Hieden, and this was 3 reasons why veterans get out of the military. If there's anything else that someone thinks they want to add or caveat off of something that I said, please do so in the comments. This channel's going to be a bunch of different things, but definitely these military videos, they're going to be about my service and about all that. We'll probably be playing this particular video. I was playing Star Citizen, going through before the 3.8 update. And in addition to that, we'll probably do some Rainbow Six Siege, maybe some Overwatch. I'm not totally sure exactly what I'm going to do, but I just know that the content's going to be military related, at least for these particular episodes, and you'll know which ones are which, because I'll have a Let's Play up if it's something other than this. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, whatever it is they say these days.